Welcome to Sunday Nation. For almost 25 years, the Sphinx Organization in Detroit has been seeking to diversify the arts, bringing voices from the black and brown community, and of course has achieved national notoriety as well. Here to talk about it is Deidre Bounds, longtime Detroiter who was a board chair of the Sphinx Organization, is currently a treasurer on its board of directors. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, I've been wanting to talk to you. This is your 25th anniversary for the Sphinx Organization. You have come a long way, and I know you've been involved with them for a long, long time.
Yeah, I have. You know, I look back and I tried to count, you know, how many years, because it has been a while, but by my count, it's about 15 of those 25 years. So a significant portion of time with them. And, you know, to see the organization grow and come from where it was when it was founded and started by Aaron Dworkin when he was a grad student at the University of Michigan, and to see where it is now, and it's an international organization that's really doing things to help not just this community here in Detroit, but the communities all over the globe. Yeah. So it's been a great journey.
Yeah, you know, as you're speaking, I'm thinking because, you know, we always talk about the question of diversity, right? And we got folk who, their own definition of diversity is checking the box. You know, we talk to Deidre, we talk to Bankole, so we good. And when you talk about let's set up something, let's concretize this notion of diversity, it becomes a difficult conversation. But with the Sphinx Organization, you have an entity that is doing that 24/7. Talk about what that looks like.
Well, and diversity for us is not a buzzword. Yes. It's not a box check, right? We've been doing this for 25 years, as you said, and the organization was founded. The principle of founding it was diversity. It was helping to get black, brown people in orchestras all over the country, and we've done that. But that was just the beginning. Now it's really about getting some of those faces in administrative roles in orchestras and helping to create a class of people who are, yes, they're artists and yes, they're musicians, but they're also business people, they're entrepreneurs. Right. And so it's gone beyond the mission of just checking the diversity.
And we're grooming talent.
Yes, but now we're grooming talent, and we're grooming the next Aaron Dworkins, we're grooming the next Alpha Dworkins, we're grooming the next Deidre Bounds, right? We're grooming these people who will have a long history and you know, be around to change things for the next generation.
On the issue of, and I don't hear too many people talk about that though, because we always show the talent, right? We show the voices, but administrative roles are very, very important because they control the dynamics of the concerts. I mean, they control who gets hired to do what at the concerts. It's not the musician who controls, you know, who gets hired. It's the folks who are doing the administrative roles. And too many times, you know, they're folk who don't look like you and I.
Well, and you know, very true. And the idea that we're tapping into these talents, they're already talented folks, but they need networking. The exposure. They need exposure. They need awareness. The ability of Sphinx to be able to do that is something that there aren't very many other types of organizations like this who are doing it. So we do a conference every January called Sphinx Connect. Okay. And we bring voices from all over the country to talk about how we're shaping communities. So there may be someone who has created an app that is giving music lessons to children and adults, but the founder and creator of that app is a young black man, and he is tapping into young black children, right? And so he's not only is he an artist, but he's also being an entrepreneur because he's created this app that is allowing people to get access to classical music, to get access to performances and to training that they just would not have otherwise. There's about 1,000 Sphinx alumni, 1,000 alumni out in the world who are doing their things.
In the 25 years you've existed.
In the 25 years we've existed. And we have the only all black and all Latino orchestra in the country. And they come together several times a year. Carnegie in New York every October, and the Sphinx Finals competition here in Detroit every January. all black, all Latino orchestra. This year we had the maestro, the conductor who conducted them was a black woman. Her name is Kalina Bovell. We haven't seen that. That's not the norm. So when we do see it, it's like, oh wow, this is a big thing, but it's not the norm, and it should be.
You know, it's there's so much with classical music, classical history. I was when you do research, the song "Ode to Joy" is known as the anthem of Europe. There's so much there that exalts, you know, a different world than the world that you guys are trying to push to bend the moral arc of the universe towards justice, not just, you know, and you know, I think throughout history we've had great you know, great African American, great black, you know, classical musicians and so forth, but sometimes people forget that history though.
They do, but yes, they forget it, but oftentimes it's buried. Right?
Yes,
so it takes
more
time
so
to,
buried than,
unearth it and to dust it off and to actually get to the core of what's there. And I think, you know, what we're trying to do is to not let these talents and let this history remain buried. We do music from black composers every year. We have, these are historical composers as well as newer composers. There's a piece written by a gentleman named Bankole Thompson, and it's called The 7 Last Words of the Black Man. And it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, but those are the pieces we can't let get buried. And, you know, I think the work that Sphinx is doing in that realm is allowing us to unearth that and, like I said, dust it off and make sure that it's not forgotten history, that it's part of our history, it's not forgotten history. And yes, it's black history, but it's everybody's history because, you know, all of these songs that, you know, sometimes we think about classical music as it's a rich white person's thing. You know, I grew up, I'm a Detroit girl. I never thought classical music. I listened to R&B, right? I grew up on, you know, R&B music. I never thought about classical music. But when I got involved with Sphinx, not only did it teach me about classical music, but it also taught me that I could be accepted in a world that I always felt wasn't for me because it seemed too highbrow. And it's not. It's not, but unless you're exposed to it and unless you're welcomed in and you're sort of you go along this path, you don't realize that it really is, it's for all of us.
You know, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about the great African American opera singer. She passed away several years ago. But just thinking about her, Jessie Norman. She passed away, but you know, when you hear Jessie Norman sings, you know, there's no difference between her and Andrea Bocelli. And all the, you know, great opera, you know, and I think that's the beauty of classical music, but it shows that, you know, that black people can compete on the level of Bocelli and all this.
Absolutely.
Toe to toe.
Absolutely. And it's really, you know, getting away from this idea that it has to, you know, it has to be some type of competition. Right? There's room for all of us. There's space for all of us. And we have, I mean, if you watch the Grammys, there were many, many, many black artists who won Grammys this year. And they deserve to win the Grammys they won. What we need to look at are the categories that are not televised. Because that's where you see some of these classical music artists. That's where you see some of the classical music composers who are African American, but it's not televised, so it doesn't get the mainstream
But to your point, is buried, and we don't realize it, and it continues to perpetuate the idea that it's you know, it's of a different world, of a different kind of you know, view and value and so forth. But let's talk about, so in 25 years you've done so much. I know it's not been easy to run an entity for that long and to be that successful on this level.
Absolutely. And I mean, we have a wonderful donor base, which of course nonprofits
That's crucial.
Need, right? But the work speaks for itself. If we weren't doing great work, we wouldn't have the strong donor base that we have. And it's not about Sphinx building its bank, right? Through the pandemic, when artists were out of work, we gave away grants, right? We gave money to folks who, you know, we always say when America gets a cold, black people get, right? So it's the same for these black artists who are performing, and many of them had gigs that were canceled, and we helped them to sustain themselves during things like the pandemic.
To fill in the gap.
To fill in the gap.
Yeah.
And I mean, to date, we've given away, and I would say scholarships and grants, about $10 million. $10 million for an organization that's 25 years old. I mean, that's a big number. And
that exists for black and brown folk.
That exists for black and brown folk.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not, you know, and it's a big number, but it goes fast. And so that's why having a great donor base and having, you know, a lot of support from the community really matters in these instances, because we need to be on the level of some of these organizations that have these great donor bases, but we need it for our people.
But I just feel like the other thing that perhaps we don't talk about is, you know, you have organizations like the Sphinx, or you have groups like Black Family Development and other entities that do good work.
Yes.
And the evidence is there.
Yeah.
The question is just fund it.
Yes.
You said you like to fund good product, just fund the thing.
Fund it.
Fund it. There's no excuse, you know, and I think, I mean, it ought to be said that, you know, it's not like we're talking about mediocre organizations here. I mean, if, you know, you're performing at a Carnegie Hall, you have this, you know, you have all the stuff that you're doing, and it's excellence.
Well, it's funded, but it's funded at the levels that you're funding some of these other organizations that have, you know, certain names that I won't name. But it's really, it's about, you know, equity. It's about equitable funding, not just funding. Yeah. Right? So we don't want, you know, it's wonderful for us to fit in a space that people can see where their dollars are going, right? So if you're an organization and you say, I really support organizations that are about racial justice or about social justice, or, you know, if you and we help fit that bill, that's great. But fund us, because we're doing really good work, and we're helping people not only in this community but lots of communities. And you know, we're a Detroit born and bred kind of organization, and so you know, it matters to us. It matters to the people that we serve. It matters to the children who may not see themselves as artists or performers, or haven't had an opportunity to see people who look like them on stage at Orchestra Hall, right? They may not have seen that, and so we are giving them an opportunity to see themselves and to imagine what they could be.
And you're giving them the red carpet too for their talents that they have to wait for 200 years before they receive the red carpet.
Yes.
Because we do see that, right? I mean, folk know that you're talented. They know that you're good at what you do. They know you're a genius in what you do, but still would not give you your flowers. And so you are recognizing that. I'm just wondering, though, what it means for these students, for these young people that are in the Sphinx space, for them to be able to be in an environment where they can not only achieve, but also find a sense of achievement and allows them to grow.
I tell you, to me, the best way to see that is to show up at one of these competitions.
Okay.
There's a week-long competition amongst the junior division and senior division. And when you see the excellence of the children who are even accepted into the competitions, and you see how it sort of narrows down to the top, right? The top winners in those categories, you see that there is excellence out there. And for children to look on stage and see that that person looks like them. I remember the first Sphinx competition I took my children to. They were probably, I would say 15 and maybe 7 or 8. And I just remember their faces as they were staring at these kids who were about their ages, staring at them on stage, and it wasn't something they were used to seeing. They were in awe of that. But it showed them that they too could find something that resonated with them, that even if they didn't see people who looked like them, that there was still a possibility for them. And I think that's what Sphinx does.
And I realized, Deidre, we're talking about this during a period of Black History Month.
Yes.
And a Black-oriented organization geared towards Black and brown people, certainly fitting for Black History Month. Put this all in the context of Black history, because, you know, it's you know, I've been on this soapbox recently that, you know, Black history is not just us dusting the pages of history and naming Du Bois, you know, Kwame Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, you know, Shirley Chisholm and all of that stuff. You know, they're all, you know, God bless them, they're all ancestors now. But Black history is more than just dusting of those pages. It is our life now.
Absolutely.
And how we're living to better our community.
Well, and it's more than February.
Yes, yes.
Right? Black history is more than just a month.
Right.
Now, I think it's great that we celebrate it in February, but I think we also have to understand that it goes beyond that. And everything that we do as an organization at Sphinx, everything that I do as Deidre Bounds is a way that I can celebrate Black people, a way that I can show up for Black people, and a way to be a role model for Black people. And so it's not just a month thing, it's an everyday. We live this every single day. Every day I wake up, I'm Black, right? I'm not the first person to say that, but it's true. And so I think for Sphinx, every day that that team wakes up, they are on a mission to diversify the arts, right? They're on a mission to change lives through diversity in the arts. And that's what we do every single day, not just Black History Month, but every day. Black History Month is absolutely needed. It's absolutely special. It should be celebrated, but it shouldn't stop at the end of February.
Yeah. James Brown will be proud of you. He said, I'm Black and I'm proud.
Say it loud.
Look, thank you so much for making time to be here. Deidre Bounds,
for having me.
Former board chair and currently the treasurer of the board of directors for the Sphinx Organization here in Detroit that has national, international notoriety for its groundbreaking work here in the city and the work that you all have been doing. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you for
having
me.
We'll be right back with more on Sunday Nation. Stay with us. I'm Bankole Thompson.